you know, when you encounter resistance, either you have enough power to get through it or you don't. And if you don't, you have to either regroup or go on to something that you do have enough power to do and things that you can do. So instead of focusing on what you can't do, always focus on what you can do that will get you closer to your goal. If we set a goal of climbing a mountain, especially a mountain that's never been climbed by anybody else, there are thousands of potential pathways up that mountain, and sometimes we go up one thinking that it's going to hold promise, and it doesn't, and we have to find another way.
I would summarize that your goal doesn't change with the tactics and process of achieving you do. You have to adjust according to the ever-changing conditions, and we now, as a team, are looking at specific outcomes we have to do, and so we have to sometimes, like right now, we're focusing on funding for a demonstration project, and so that requires a rather focused and concerted effort. Otherwise, we can't move to the next levels. Furthermore, we now realize, I certainly speaking for myself, and I don't want to speak too much for you. When you're doing something of this sort, you can't just focus on a few things because there's so many impacts. You have to adjust, and rather than get overly surprised later, you have to start thinking about them early on.
So projecting a lot.
Yeah. So you structure your tasks around that, and making sure the important guideposts are met, and then you take an assessment from there. And another point I make as part of the team is building a constituency. The constituency goes beyond just the team members themselves. We're trying to ultimately serve a society, and they are stakeholders in this, and that's a really broad meaning. Stakeholders in many ways, and they need a voice in the whole process. So we want to get them in dialogue. When I used to work at the Solar Energy Research Institute, which is now called the National Renewable Energy Lab, I learned about that process. You know, I was doing research that ultimately was for society. Why not get that very society involved from the get-go and make them part of the research team, the team at large, if you will? And it doesn't mean you just always democratically follow what the masses say. You have to have a vision. Sometimes that falls within a few individuals or one individual that has a vision. So that hopefully explains the process.